Great. And we will, like I said, after this session, we'll make sure to get this recording posted, as well as all of the references that we'll be referencing throughout the evening, whether we put it on chat or whether we just verbalize it. We'll make sure that all of the links and all of the references from this evening's conversation get online on our website. So don't feel like you have to grab a pen and paper or capture everything that we say. Again, this recording will be on our website, as well as all of our references for this evening's conversation. So welcome. My name is Sarah Woodside Burry. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm the Senior Director of College Student Life for both College 9 and John R. Lewis colleges. We're so thrilled to have so many of you here, as I said. My role is to oversee the student life functions of the college. So everything that happens with your student outside of the classroom really falls under my purview. And I co-lead the colleges with my counterpart, our provost, Flora Liu. So I'll have Flora introduce herself next, and then we'll make our way around.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see you all. My name is Flora Liu, and as Sarah mentioned, I'm the provost of College 9 and John R. Lewis College. I'm also a faculty member, so I am a full professor in environmental studies and have worked here at UC Santa Cruz since 2008. And my role in the colleges is to oversee the academic side. So I work closely with my wonderful advising team, and I have two of our advisors here on our panel tonight. And as we get started today, just wanted to welcome you all, and I look forward to your questions, and just wanted to share with you a piece of really wonderful news is that our very own Sarah Woodside Burry has been awarded 2 outstanding staff awards, which she will be receiving in the fall. And I want to give her the special shout out because she's been with our colleges from the very, very earliest days. And we have really wonderful award-winning staff here at College 9 and John R. Lewis College. So maybe what I'll do is I'll turn it to Gloria to introduce herself, and then we'll have Chelsea.
Thank you, Flora, and thank you, Sarah. Congrats, Sarah, that's awesome. My name is Gloria Salazar. I am one of the college academic advisors here with College 9 and John Lewis. So when your students have questions regarding course selection, policies, any questions they may have, they can always come to us. We're always a resource available to them. So I'm really, really happy to be here. Happy to get to know you and your students. Exciting things to come this fall. So thank you so much. Chelsea, I can pass it over to you.
Thank you, Gloria. I am the second half of our little team here today representing advising. So my name is Chelsea Hamness. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm also super excited to be on this journey with your students, along with Gloria and everyone else on our team. We're very excited to be welcoming them, and we are here both for them to be answering any kinds of questions that they come up with, as well as any kinds of questions you might have in terms of advising related things, from courses to just academic planning generally, all the way through to graduation. So let us know, and we're here to help. And then Flora, I'm not sure who you would like me to turn over to next.
Yeah, how about Gabby?
Hi folks, I'm Gabby Darlak. My pronouns are they, them, and she, her. I am the assistant to the senior director here at College 9 and John R. Lewis College. I do a lot of back-end admin stuff, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'll be posting links and things that are referencing what the panelists are speaking on today. So thank you all for coming, and I will pass it over to Tim.
Hello, my name's Tim Barber. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm the college programs coordinator for College 9 and John Lewis College. My office oversees things like events and community building activities and things like that. I also oversee a fairly large group of student leaders, including orientation and welcome leaders who will be working with your students when they arrive here in the fall, to sort of guide them in their transition to being a university student. I forgot what I was going to say next, so I'm going to pass to my boss, Siobhan.
Thank you, Tim.
Hi, everyone. Welcome this evening. My name is Siobhan. I use she and her pronouns. I am the Associate Director over College 9 and John R. Lewis College, and I oversee college student life. So I partner with Tim and then also Santos, who I will go ahead and pass this over to in residential education.
Thank you, Siobhan. Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Santos. I use they, them, theirs pronouns. I am the Assistant Director for Residential Education here at College 9 and John R. Lewis College, which basically means I help to implement, create, distribute our curricular strategies that assist in the living and learning environments in our area. So I supervise a full-time team of 3 folks who supervise the students that live amongst your students. And so we're pretty much the primary contact point for anything from how do we get connected to an advisor, or I want to meet my friends on the floor, please facilitate something. And so we try to be really strategic in that forethought and planning before our students get here. And that's our primary goal, is to serve all of the folks that are living in our halls.
Great. Thank you all for introducing yourselves, and thank you, team, for being here to answer questions. And that's exactly what we're here to do. So we could talk all night about all the great things that we do, but we want to hear your questions and kind of guide our conversation this evening based on the questions that you all may have. And so the way that we're going to do that is you don't need to unmute yourself. You can just actually plop it right there in the chat for everyone to see, because I bet you that your question is going to be similar to everyone else in the room. So go ahead and use the chat function tonight. We are going to be using that a lot, as Gabby alluded to earlier. She's going to be adding references there. And like I said, all of those things that we reference in this evening's chat and in our conversation will all be posted online on our website as well. So you can just chat to everyone. You should all have that feature, using the chat feature to ask your questions, and then we'll try to group them as much as possible so that we can talk a little bit about some of the things that we do at our colleges that support our community and support all of your students as well. So we're already seeing some. Perfect. Thank you. You all are getting the idea. So go ahead and keep populating the chat. If there's anything we don't get to this evening, rest assured, we will be sure to follow up on that website, like I said, and give references to any questions that we don't get to. So again, thanks for being here. And I'm already seeing some questions about what's the best way to connect with potential roommates, and kind of how you might go about getting information on housing assignments, related to residential life and housing. So I'm going to actually start those questions off to Siobhan and Santos, and they can kind of address what move-in looks like, how to connect with roommates ahead of time, how to get information about housing assignments ahead of time, and all of that. So Siobhan, you want to get started, and then maybe Santos can follow up?
Perfect. Yeah. So great question. Students are actually, we're in the process of getting students assigned to our residential halls and continuing students in our apartments, as well as our theme floors. And so while that's all happening in the background, there are future dates in August, specifically August 15th, that we're going to be updating the housing website to share with folks that they can go into their student housing portal, log in, and they'll be able to see what space they are assigned to. One of the big things with our assignments right now is that there's a lot of moving parts, and that's the reason why we don't daily, weekly, and or monthly over the summer update students with their room spaces, because we're trying to keep them with as best possible if they have roommates that they selected, to keep them together, which just might mean a little bit of I don't know, do-si-doing around in different spaces. So we don't really want them right now to get connected with a space that might not end up being the space that they get closer to the 15th. And then the other piece about that Two is that they will be able to see a lot more as far as what is the room look like. Is it a res hall room? Is it an apartment based on their priorities? And then last piece is that many students right now are, especially our continuing students. So Frosh is a whole different process, but for our continuing students, or I would say our transfer students or incoming visiting students, there might be some emails that you get from the housing. It's going to be 9housing10 at ucsc.edu, as well as housing at ucsc.edu that might have more information about assignments. There could be, for our Frosh students, there could be some accommodation requests through our Disability Resource Center, or DRC, and some of that communication might be coming from our 9housing10 email. And so all of that, the reason why I'm saying all of that is these emails are we're finding sometimes go to folks' spam because it's not a person email, right? It's a university email. So we're asking everyone to share. I think click as important, or make a label, or some sort of notification that any of those housing emails really go into folks' inboxes so that they can make sure that they're getting their assignments, seeing that those come out again on the 15th of August, and then being able to, if there are any additional questions, being able to go to our housing website, which also does have some frequently asked questions and updated timelines for assignments.
Santos, is there more that you want to add? And I'm also seeing some questions online about seeing actual res hall rooms or the videos, et cetera. I don't know if you want to add more to what Siobhan was saying.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. To add to what Siobhan is saying, what I would recommend is going to, and Gabby dropped it in the chat, our housing website. Our housing website will have the most accurate and up-to-date information related to what our physical spaces look like. I'll also tell you that the colleges have not been remodeled since they were built. And so whatever is on YouTube that says UCSC College 9 or UCSC College 10, which is now John R. Lewis College, that is the most accurate and up-to-date video. I've done a little bit of YouTubing myself, and some of the videos are interesting. But it is what the spaces look like when they're not professionally cleaned and a student is living in the space. I know there was the initial question, I think was from Noah, around getting connected with potential roommates. So Siobhan alluded to, on the student housing portal, you should have the ability to fill out, I don't remember what the software is actually called. I think it's a roommate matching software that we use. And so using the housing portal website, you should be able to create a profile for yourself and then sort of sift through other people's profiles. And that's all found through the housing and or portal website, like I said. And then I would also suggest looking on Facebook groups. I know for some younger generations, Facebook is a little bit antiquated. And so looking on Facebook groups, and I know Reddit is a really great option these days for folks who are looking for housing both on and off campus. And so I would say those would be my two top recommendations. Information on showers and laundry, great question, Rudy. For showers, it depends on where the student is living. So in our res halls, we have a common shower that's on the floor for all of the students to share. And we have floors that are dedicated to specific populations. So we have single gender floors, we have LGBTQ plus floors, which are new to our area this year, which I'm super excited about. We have our I floor, we have Rumi's Field, which is a nonviolent communication floor, a quiet floor, all of these things. And so folks who are living amongst each other of common interest, and they all share a common bathroom. And then our apartments communities, they are multi-bedroom with a single restroom, has double sinks, toilet, shower, etc., pretty standard, but they're all shared restrooms, even if a student is in a single bedroom. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Yes, please bring your mini fridge, please. Okay, that's it for now.
Great. And I wanted to flag for our advisors here how to get an advising appointment in terms of transcripts, AP classes, those questions. Maybe Chelsea, you can start, and Gloria can chime in.
Yeah, definitely. So we have our lovely websites for both John R. Lewis College as well as College 9 that have updated information on how students can make appointments with us. Typically, what students are encouraged to do is to use our Slug Success website. So once your student is able to have access to that, they should be able to get a hold of us that way. We ask that right now students do not book us quite yet in terms of these advisement appointments. advising appointments so that they can make sure that they are getting the best that they can get out of our virtual advising week, which will be upcoming that first week of August. So at this point in time, please just have your student stick in there for a little bit longer, get all those questions ready for us, because we're going to have a whole week of advising all of the students that you guys are going to be sending us. In addition to that, though, if there are any other questions that if a student for whatever reason can't get through Select Success, you're always welcome. The students are always welcome to make an appointment with us. You can always phone our front office. You can contact our peer advisors, which are our student staff, through their email address or through the GChat. So we always have multiple ways that students can contact us as well. And then last but not least, if a student does have a quick question, again, after virtual advising week, they can always email us directly as well through either 9 spelled out NINE advising at ucsc.edu or JRLC advising at ucsc.edu. So that was a whole lot. Gloria, do you want to take on the AP and transcript question real quick?
Yeah. In addition to virtual advising week, which Chelsea mentioned, once virtual advising week passes and enrollment passes, students, Frosh, incoming Frosh, will be able to make appointments, one-on-one appointments with us. We will also have outdoor and virtual drop-in advising welcome week. So their first week on campus, when they're figuring housing and classes out, majors. So they'll have plenty of opportunity to ask us those important questions. As Chelsea mentioned, I do want to echo, unfortunately, right now, we're not taking one-on-one appointments with our incoming Frosh because we have continuing students who are consulting with us. But that opportunity will come. Virtual advising week invites are going to go out in about a week and a half. And yeah, whatever questions your students may have after virtual advising week, we're more than happy to answer them via email as well. The websites, or our websites, have instructions on how to make appointments and how to get to know us, how to talk to us. But those virtual advising week sessions are going to be basically Q&A. So whatever questions that your incoming students may have, please have them prepare their questions, write them down, bring them over to us. We're very, very excited to meet your Frosh. As far as AP scores, so we did get notified that there is a bit of a delay. Students were basically students who submitted their AP scores after July 1st will experience a little bit of a longer delay, but admissions is processing them. If after, let me check the date here. If after July 18th in particular, scores are still not posted, have your student bring that up for virtual advising week. But we did get notified just today that there is a bit of a delay in AP scores. So admissions is working on them. So we appreciate your patience. And then I believe, did I cover all of my bases here? I think it was questions about appointments and AP scores, right?
Yeah, I think there was one other one just in regards to transcripts, the same kind of thing as with AP. Some of them might be a little delayed depending on the schools that they're coming from. And again, just admissions is processing a ton of information with all these amazing incoming students. So a lot of that is just going to be kind of to be patient, and it will be able to get through. This is not our first rodeo of having delays. So you can trust us in knowing that we are well adjusted to being able to help your student despite any delays. And if those transcripts or AP scores, if anything of that nature, would decide what class they get into, and thus your student is concerned because of what they're trying to enroll into. Depending on if the departments or other kinds of institutions like on campus are able to take unofficial scores, certain departments might be willing to do that for prerequisites, others might not. So I think I saw someone ask about, can you make appointments with major advisors? I believe they also are going to have kind of a delay in terms of when they are looking for appointments with incoming students. However, each department here is at their own unique thing. So just like we here at the college have our own kind of pace, the majors might have their own. So it's always worth a try just to kind of email and see, hey, when can I start making appointments with those major advisors and get that information? So especially if you have a student who has a delay in terms of transcripts or AP, that would be a great place to reach out to, is the department that the class that they are interested in going into will be offering.
Thank you both, Chelsea and Gloria. There's a few other advising questions which we'll come back to, but I thought I'd turn it over to Flora to maybe talk briefly about CORE, because there was a question earlier on about how do students find their College One required course in the college search, and some technical questions. But I thought, Flora, if you want to talk a little bit about what students can expect in CORE, and then how that process goes for getting enrolled, et cetera.
Absolutely. So, so your student will be taking the core course in College 9 and John R. Lewis College. Actually, every entering frosh here at UC Santa Cruz will take a core course with their, with the college that they're affiliated with. And at College 9, our theme is International and Global Perspectives. And so the core course reflects that theme. And at John R. Lewis College, formerly College 10, our theme is Social Justice and Community. And similar with the John R. Lewis College core course, the themes really reflect issues of social justice, identity formation, culture, economic, environmental concerns. And so what will happen is that the core course will be, each student will have a whole suite of different sections that they can go ahead and be enrolled in to meet their needs in terms of their schedule. And we have a fantastic group of lecturers that we've hired to teach core. Core course is important for your student because in their first quarter here at UC Santa Cruz, it really gives them that transition, that opportunity to get to know the college, to build community with each other as well as with faculty, and convey really important skills. We call them habits of mind or academic ethos, right? And so anything from metacognition, which is how your student thinks about themselves as a learner and reflects upon their own learning, to things like, analytical reasoning, academic self-efficacy. So there's really sort of key skills to transition your student from, really a high school type of education towards more of a university style of education, right? Where they are expected and encouraged to be part of intellectual and scholarly debates, to see themselves not just as consumers of information, but really as potential producers of information. I always encourage our students to consider as they go into their sophomore, junior, senior, fifth years to engage with faculty, to perhaps take on an independent research project, to think about a senior thesis. There's so many different ways to do that senior exit requirement, right? And so, so the core course is just part of that journey in terms of how your student will grow academically. We work really closely with our college academic managers and our advising team to make sure that students are able to sort of sign up for their core courses, and these classes will be some of the smallest classes that they will have in their first quarter. So they're about 20-25 students of all backgrounds, of all majors, just a really diverse group of peers that they'll be engaging with. And that's so important to be able to really appreciate the UC Santa Cruz community and start getting to know people with different backgrounds than the ones that your student comes from.
Awesome. Thank you, Flora. And hopefully that addressed some of that question about the College One. We'll come back to some of the other advising questions, but I also am seeing a question about Welcome Week and what that looks like. And so I thought we'd turn it over to Tim to sort of talk about what folks can expect once students move in, and what happens between then and classes starting.
Sure, yeah. So Frosh will be moving in on Thursday, and classes start the next Thursday. So we've got an entire week, Thursday through Wednesday, of activities planned, or that we are currently planning, for your students to learn more about what it means to be a member of College 9 or John Lewis College, and the values and identities within that space, to learn what it means to be a part of UCSC, how to navigate the space and find access to resources, and then to have fun and meet people and start building that community that will make this the home away from home, that will help them thrive. We have a number of student leaders who are all working to create things for your incoming students. We have residential assistants who will be living with them on their floors and working really closely with them to guide them in that space, and hold a lot of knowledge for them to be able to access through their RA. We'll have programs assistants who work under my office, who put on medium and large scale events things like a karaoke night or a craft night or a movie on the lawn, that kind of thing. We'll also have orientation welcome leaders, which I mentioned earlier, who will be be assigned to certain sets of students, certain smaller subsets, and work with the RAs to really support and create fun, maybe smaller activities. Anything from how do you find a library to how do you work a washing machine. And we have the Terry Freitas Cafe, which is also a food pantry, and there's a group of students who run that space. And we'll have a big open mic as a part of the first few weeks. Not only do we have an action-packed week of both mandatory and fun events for your students to do during Welcome Week, but really the entire first 7 or so weeks of the quarter will have something going on that will be really interesting. And honestly, we'll probably have some more stuff later in the quarter. We just haven't planned that far yet. But we're all working together to make sure that there's a really exciting, interesting, and engaging time for your students when they show up.
Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate that. So I want to go back to some of the advising related questions. Chelsea and Gloria, you can decide who wants to take a pick, but I know that there was one about how many credits to take, or there was a question about something about 19 credits or more. And then there were some questions about the potential subjects that students typically take in their first year. And then a question about the difference between sort of college advising and major advising, which I know you somewhat alluded to, but if we want to come back for that. And then when students sign up for classes. So I know that's like 4 different areas, but maybe we can start with Gloria this time, or Chelsea, and then go from there.
Yeah, so I will start with Frosh advising. That is going to be from August. So it's basically after virtual advising week. It's going to be from August 8th through August 12th. It's really, really important to keep in mind that in order to get an enrollment appointment on time before enrollment happens, students must complete part 1 and part 2 of their orientation course or orientation modules on Canvas. So the requirements to receive an enrollment appointment on time or a little bit earlier is going to be to finish part 1, finish part 2 of orientation, and also have those high school transcripts sent over to admissions. And by then, if deadlines are met, students are able to receive early enrollment appointments. So the deadline for part 2 of our orientations Canvas module is this Friday, July 16th. So we encourage that you encourage your students to plan accordingly so that we can get that enrollment appointment once Frosh enrollment comes along August 8th through 12th. And virtual advising week will be a great opportunity for students to ask what kind of courses they should enroll in. We also have a video that kind of walks through, standard course load for incoming Frosh. Generally, when it comes to units, we recommend 15 units is the standard. The reason being is that students who are, graduating in 4 years, 15 units per quarter throughout their 4 years here will equate to their 180 unit minimum requirement. Sometimes students come in with community college credit, with AP credit, so they're able to maybe take 12 units or, between 12 or 15 units, but more often than not, we do strongly encourage a standard 15 unit course load in terms of course selection. And we'll touch on this in virtual advising week. We always, we want to do our core class because it's super important, it's super fun. It's a great way to build community too. Students get to know each other, make friends. So our core class, generally Frosh enroll in a core, a GE, and a major course, but we understand, a lot of our Frosh are 17, 18, sometimes younger. It's hard to really know what you want to do at that age. So major exploration is totally normal and we really encourage it. So sometimes students take maybe like their core course and 2 introductory courses to majors they're interested in. We can definitely go more into detail during virtual advising week. When it comes to the more rigorous courses, we don't really encourage students to take like 3 really heavy courses their first quarter because it is a transitional quarter, right? But yeah, when it comes to course selection, we'll definitely be able to help during virtual advising week and thereafter. In terms of units, so requesting 19 plus units. So Frosh, unfortunately, are not eligible to take more than 19 units. The reason being is that we want to make sure that students are able to handle additional units, right? Again, first year is a very transitional period into a university setting. So students thereafter, after their first quarter, are eligible to enroll in up to 22 units if they have a 3.0 or higher cumulative GPA. But again, with our Frosh, we kind of encourage against that because, you know, we at College 9 and John Lewis Advising, we encourage students to enjoy the journey, make friends, build community. You know, classes are very, very important, but so is establishing a strong foundation here. And we're able to help with course selection. But to answer your question, more than 19 units will not be possible first quarter. We don't encourage more than 15 to allow for that space to transition into college level courses. But did I miss anything? Chelsea, do you want to add on if I missed a question?
I believe, and just following up right there with your what you were just talking on, Gloria, in terms of the 19 plus, I think the parent was a little concerned in terms of like the double major. A lot of students here are able to pull off double majors, triple majors, additional minors, all of those amazing things well within their 4 years, still taking the 15 units each. It's very common for students to have a major and a GE and their GE courses and it not actually come up to 180 units for graduation. So being able to supplement that with another major, with other minors, with other opportunities is actually still well within the plans. So you don't have to necessarily worry that your student needs to take a whole bunch right at the beginning just to be on track. We can figure that out with the student as we move forward, depending on how classes are going. And really, we want to emphasize a strong start in the beginning. And that oftentimes is not conducive with overloading students right off the bat either. And then I believe in terms of other questions, one was in terms of scheduling classes. There was one, why on some schedules for the My Scheduler courses have multiple blocks while others only have one. So the main reason for this is that our classes sometimes are divided into lectures and discussion sections. So the lecture might be a larger hall of up to 300 students in some cases, where it's just a huge hall with tons of students and you're all listening to the lecture. But the class actually plans in these smaller discussion sections of, you know, more like 20 to 30 students, where students can actually hash out what those ideas are that they're getting in lecture or getting on that hands-on experience that might be directly related to the material they're learning in lecture. So if you're seeing multiple time spots, oftentimes that's what you're going to be seeing is you might see, okay, these are my lecture blocks, whereas these are my discussion blocks. And the same thing go with lab classes as well, that lab classes might also have separate times. So totally normal and expected to be able to see those kinds of things. It doesn't necessarily mean that any one class is necessarily harder than others based on how much time, but it's definitely something to consider when you have students, again, in this transitionary period, to make sure that they're not overwhelming themselves just back-to-back classes and making sure that there are planned breaks. So it's a good thing to just keep in mind.
And I do want to jump in and clarify a clarification question in the chat. So basically when students finish, so there's different departments that work on processing different things. So we have a whole team dedicated to orientation, and that's orientation leaders and a director for the orientation team. So they'll be able to manage completion of the orientation, part 1, 2, and 3. And then in terms of transcripts, so basically, as long as admissions can confirm that transcripts have been received by students, which students get email reminders, as long as it's been confirmed, the registrar will then take care of basically saying, okay, our student has finished part 1, part 2, and their transcripts have been received. Let's go ahead and give them their enrollment appointment. So I wouldn't say, you know, if things are not processed on time, we'll take care of it. We'll make sure that students have their enrollment appointments and that we can do everything we can to make sure that they enroll successfully. So I want to clarify also, because some of your students might have priority enrollment, but most students don't. So there is priority enrollment and then there's regular enrollment. So August 8th through 12th is going to be regular enrollment for for Frosh, but there are a handful or a few selected students, you know, through maybe like EOP Bridge, or they have accommodations, or they're part of different programs on campus that give them priority enrollment, so they can enroll a little bit before that August 8th through 12th. And Chelsea, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if we have those dates, and I can put them in the chat once I find them for priority enrollment. But essentially, as long as our students can enroll between Frosh enrollment August 8th through 12th, they'll be okay. We'll help with course selection. We'll have virtual advising weeks. So enrollment appointments, it's just going to depend on which day and time. I kind of like to think of it as like getting concert tickets or like Beyonce or Bad Bunny. You got to really just see your enrollment appointment, your enrollment time, set an alarm, because they will be assigned most likely in accordance to how when they complete everything. So like I said, July 16th, which is this Friday, will be the deadline for part 2. But I want to reassure you, there's departments all over campus. We're all working together to ensure that our students are set up for success. So any questions, you know, by the time virtual enrollment week comes along, if a student feels like maybe they're falling a little bit behind or they're a little worried, please bring those questions. We also acknowledge, you know, in order to complete orientation, you need access to a computer and to internet and to all these entities that factor into completion of orientation. So if your student finds that they're maybe not going to meet those deadlines for part 2 of orientation, or submitting, if there's issues with submitting their transcripts, please have them reach out to us, bring those questions to virtual advising. We send an email if it's a really urgent matter, because we want to be as accommodating as possible. So we recognize that not all students are able to finish orientation on time for various reasons. So we want to be a resource and allow for accommodations and flexibility for special cases. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. I hope I gave clarification, Lori. If not, please feel free to ask for more clarification.
And I believe, I was going to say, I got the priority enrollment dates are going to be that weekend just prior. So basically our virtual advising week will start on the 1st and go through the 5th. And then on that day of the 5th and the 6th, those priority groups will have their enrollment times. And then once we get into that next week, that will be the week of Frosh enrollment, where they will be able to, everyone else who is not in those priority groups will be able to enroll into their classes. I also put a list of the different groups that do get priority enrollment. So if you are interested in any of those, if you think that your student qualifies for any of those, please feel free. You can reach out to the resources on campus to inquire about that.
Thank you both, Chelsea and Gloria. Appreciate it. I'm going to address a couple of the questions oriented around families and family day and that kind of thing. And then one question around COVID and how it is that we support students who might test positive. And then I think there are a few more questions that Siobhan can address. I know you've been addressing them in chat too, and keep them coming. We'll try to get to as many as we can. So thank you. So first of all, families, thank you. Those of you who are family members, friends, support folks, guardians that are on this call of our next year's students. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. And this format seems to be working for us. So we've been doing this all through COVID, offering these kind of Zoom gatherings once a quarter, including the summer. And so we'll be doing that. We commit to doing that once every quarter coming into this next year, because we know that this is a cost-effective way to engage with some of our family members and guardians and support people of our students. So we welcome you to keep joining us on these Zoom calls, and we'll be doing them throughout the year. So at different times of the year, we'll be talking about different kinds of functions. Like right now, we're really heavy on kind of enrollment and first time move in and all of that, but we'll be talking more about kind of how the quarter is going as we get into fall, winter, and spring, and what to expect or what your students can expect. And then we also hope to hope to be able to have an in-person family day. We usually try to do that in the winter quarter. This year, we had a major exciting opportunity with naming College 10 after John R. Lewis. And so we invited families to join us in person for the dedication event. So that was kind of our in-person family weekend. But we hope to be able to do an in-person family day. And please continue to check out our website. We'll be posting information there. Similar to how you found out about this Zoom gathering, we'll be doing a similar sort of postcard sending home, that kind of thing, so that folks know how to join us on campus or to join us on Zoom. And then I know Tim addressed a question related to families during Welcome Week and move-in. And really, we like to think, or have you think about move-in as an opportunity to say goodbye to your students, welcoming them to their new home. But right away on move-in day, right that evening, we start with mandatory programs for your students to get involved and start building community, knowing their new home and all the things that they need to know in case of an emergency, all the way to building new friendships and relationships. So they're going to be pretty full, as Tim described. There's a pretty full schedule all the way leading up to the start of classes. So we really want you to be prepared for move-in day as goodbye day. We will have some sort of family lounge or opportunity for you to engage with some of us staff members before you depart. But that's what you can expect on that move-in day. And then there was a question, shifting gears a little bit to the question about COVID, and then I'll flip back to some of these other questions. But I just wanted folks to know there was the SlugStrong website was linked in the chat. That's a great resource for knowing and staying up to date. There's a current dashboard in terms of our current numbers. We do not know exactly all of the testing protocols or what will be in place for next year at this point, but we do know that if a student tests positive, we do usually, and they're living on campus, we would usually remove the student from the area so they can go into quarantine or isolation housing. That's all in conjunction with our student health center, which we have on campus. And they support making sure that students are doing the right thing, quarantining or isolating or whatever the case is needed. And then we partner with local hotels as well as local agencies to get students transported to where it is that they're needing to be. They get the meals and everything delivered to their door, and that's all taken care of through our quarantine and isolation housing program. But SlugStrong is the best website to stay up to date, all the current sort of protocols and information there. We are asking for 100% compliance for the UC policy on vaccines, which includes the COVID-19 vaccine or an exception. And so that all, again, can be found through that SlugStrong website or our health center as well. So those are a couple of questions I wanted to try to address before too long. And yes, you're right. College 9 and John R. Lewis are fortunate enough to be right across the street from our Student Health Center. They also house our CAPS program, which is our counseling and psychological services, which I know was a question asked earlier. And Slug Support is not too far away. But those organizations are here to support our students with any sort of wellness that they need, whether it's psychological, emotional, or financial support, as well as anything related to their physical health. So all of I'm seeing this vaccine immunization record, that's all done through our Health eMessenger or our Health online portal. So students can access it through the Student Health Center, as Gabby linked there. So I know there were a bunch of questions before on kind of like what to bring. I know that Siobhan, you were addressing some of those, but e-bikes, bike racks, heating, carpets, food choices, lighting, outlets, all those things. I know you addressed a lot of them in the chat, but I wondered if you wanted to address any of that verbally or say anything more about kind of what to expect around that.
Yes, definitely. And thank you everyone for those questions. I found that might be a little biased, but definitely going with that what to bring, what not to bring webpage, because sometimes if you go into, let's say, Target or Bed Bath & Beyond around this time of year, they'll give you just an overhaul of what to bring and what not to bring. And some of the things on those lists are definitely stuff you should not bring, your students should not bring to our spaces. A couple of reasons. One, if we already provide a desk, you don't need to bring a desk, that's provided. And in many of our residential hall spaces, our custodial team does leave in either each floor or every other floor a vacuum for folks to utilize. And that vacuum is upkept by our custodial team, as well as going back to what Santos said earlier of looking at the YouTube videos, being very aware that those are maybe not necessarily all professional university videos, but folks living in their spaces. And in between each year, in between each summer, those spaces are cleaned, and our maintenance team kind of goes through and does some touch-ups and things like that. So I do recommend for folks to look into those. And also recognizing one thing that I said earlier is that if someone has a accommodation need request due to maybe mobility or access for a room, maybe visual light, we have some accommodation rooms specifically, then that would be a request through the Disability Resource Center for housing accommodations. And they partner with our housing coordinator, Sarah Harker, to get folks into spaces that best meet their accommodation needs.
Great, thank you, Siobhan. One thing I might add is around the bikes. I'm an avid cyclist and love biking. And so I usually like taking this question, but I like to also preface it that we're also a very hilly campus. We're 2,000 acres and very uphill. So most of it, although College 9 and John R. Lewis like to boast that we're kind of at the top of the hill. So everything's downhill from us, but coming home is a hefty hike up. So if your student is an avid cyclist or has recently invested in an e-bike, then it's a great campus for biking, mountain biking. It's sort of a mecca for that. And there are outside bike racks. We do recommend really hefty U-locks or some other hefty lock, because you know that is sometimes happens in our community and on campus. Unfortunately, sometimes if bikes aren't locked properly, then there is a case sometimes that they get stolen. So we like to make sure that students bring a good hefty U-lock, and that they are aware that it's a hilly campus before they decide to bring their bike to campus. But plenty of bike parking outside. There are going to be new e-bikes. There's a new e-bike program that's hopefully going to be up and running in the fall that is kind of like rent as you go. And we're going to have a site up at 9 and John Lewis kind of in the central area where students can take out e-bikes. We used to have it was called Jump was the program before, and I think there's a new program starting hopefully this fall. So thanks for adding, Gabby, more about the bike info. I saw a couple of questions earlier about financial aid and when folks can, oh, sorry, Tim, you go, and then we'll go to the financial aid.
I'm not sure if this was mentioned or not, but going back to the what to bring, once your student has been assigned a room, they'll get their roommate's information, correct? They should check with their roommates. You don't want 3 mini fridges in one of these rooms. They're very small for 3 mini fridges. So before you bring stuff, it's good if the students talk with each other.
Yeah, and I don't know, Siobhan, speaking of those mini fridges and all the things that you need to plug in, I don't know if you already addressed that question about outlets. Yes.
Yeah, so that's one thing I put it in there, but I actually really want to stress this a lot for folks. So I always recommend a surge protector no matter what. But I think the biggest thing for folks to recognize is whether they're going to have hybrid courses or if they're all in person, or if they're, doing other folks, gaming. We have our Xfinity online streaming service. So just the use of electronics in the residential spaces is a lot higher than it used to be. And so because of that, maybe some of us are, just used to fuses, maybe kind of turning off due to too much use. And so I always recommend if someone is going to have a mini fridge or something that takes up a lot of power, to definitely have that and maybe one other thing on a surge protector. and then have a separate surge protector for maybe phone chargers, laptops, things like that. There are in some rooms, the desks have the under shelf light. And so you wouldn't need another light for that. So that would be something to look into. And that's one less thing to plug in. But the one other thing I would add, I put in there in the chat for folks that saw it, like not to daisy chain, surge protector to surge protector, because then they don't work. So that's definitely one thing we have seen for folks kind of doing that, and really recommend against it. If folks have questions, another thing, having residential assistants in the floors, in the spaces, in the apartment community areas, they can definitely talk with their RAs, as well as Tim shared with the orientation welcome leaders, and asking a little bit how they, as students living in the same residential spaces, utilize their surge protectors and hook things up. So I definitely say invest in a good surge protector for all of your electronic needs in the residential spaces.
Thank you, Tim and Siobhan. So let's go back to that question. I know there was a question about financial aid and, when we can expect information around that. So I don't know, Chelsea or Gloria, if you want to address those questions related to that.
Yeah, I'm happy to just kind of jump in just in general. In terms of financial aid, the financial aid office is the unique place that you will be able to go to get all of your questions to be able to be answered for that. The one thing is us as advisors, we do not actually have access to any of your child's financial information. So it's definitely kept very private, so you never have to worry about anything like that. But we do work obviously very closely with that, just in terms of in terms of being able to enroll and to make sure that students are supported. We work closely with that office as well. Typically, when we see students who are getting their packages and their financial aid approved, that will be happening throughout the summer. And again, depending on when FAFSAs were received, when information was updated, all of those types of things, the information and such will be coming throughout that that time. And then thank you, Gloria. So you can see in terms of the timeline when those actual bills are going to be posted. So hopefully, once you're getting into this later in the summer is when you will start to be able to see more of those finalized types of information regarding it.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm just scrolling through. Thanks, Tim. I know you answered the question about studying at night. And yes, there are lots of different places to study at night. Fortunately, at 9 John Lewis, we do have a few lounges that are accessible all night long. We have our community safety officer program also on this campus, in addition to a fully sworn police department, as well as a fire station on our campus. But the community safety officers are the ones that are sort of at our residential facilities, and they're the ones that go around and sort of lock up rooms at night, and they often report to us that they find students studying until the wee hours of the morning, 3 a.m. and beyond, and they'll allow the student obviously to stay in that lounge and lock the door behind them so that they can remain in there and study all night long. And then some are accessible via key card 24 hours a day. So there are lots of opportunities for studying, in addition to our libraries that host different hours, and some of those hours do go into the evening, although not as late as our students maybe would like, some of those that are full night owls. But yes, that's great. So I know that there are a few questions we maybe haven't gotten to, so I'm just scrolling, but Flora, did you have other things you wanted to add, or general advice you wanted to share while we make sure?
Absolutely. So one thing that I'll do in the fall, and typically this happens before classes actually start. So our frosh are here, they've had welcome week, they're super excited for classes to start, and it's typically the day before classes start. I will have an opportunity to give what has been called a core orientation, right? Because as provost, I oversee the core course. And I've used that opportunity to talk with our students about, their journey overall, and the mindset that they actually are taking in as they begin their classes here at UC Santa Cruz. And I draw upon this experience, my own experience and experience working with students for many, many years now, because of course we know that our students are super excited. Many of them are going to be, most of them are going to be really nervous. And the pace of a quarter system is very fast. right? So I would just really want to impart that, that time management and reaching out and using resources, all of these things are really paramount, because the jump from high school to a university is a really big jump, right? And we are here to support your student, but we also really want to talk with them about what is their mindset coming into this place. How are they grappling with things like, you know, imposter syndrome or their anxiety, really wanting to sort of maybe step out of their shell a little bit and engage with faculty. I think that's also really important. So we talk a little bit about ideas of growth mindset. We talk a little bit about academic integrity and why that's so important. And as provost, I adjudicate academic misconduct cases, so cases of cheating and plagiarism. And what I found time and again is that students who struggle with their time management or oftentimes are not reaching out or you know, getting tutoring in terms of tutoring resources or going to the writing center or visiting office hours or not going to section. Oftentimes students will get to a point where they have kind of painted themselves into a corner, right? So we're trying to give students tips about not just academic success, but overall success here at UC Santa Cruz. And these are messages that the core lecturers will support them with. This is why I recommend for students to see their college advisors regularly. Because when you build relationships with our college advisors, with our lecturers, with faculty, with staff, right? There's many, many people then who are looking out and caring about your student. And that really puts a premium, and I really want to emphasize, for your student to be able to connect with people who can support them. I want every student to be able to answer, you know, during their time here at UC Santa Cruz, who's looking out for you, who's got your back, right? Because it is a two-way street, forging these relationships, and it is such an important thing. So I'll talk to students about, for example, you know, when they're juniors, when they're seniors, when they're thinking about grad school or jobs and things like that, who's going to write a letter of recommendation for you, right? So forging those relationships early, getting to know faculty, being involved in faculty research or other types of experiential learning or like, you know, enriching courses. Did you all know that here at UC Santa Cruz, students can do independent studies with faculty? If they wanted to like read up about something that was really within their wheelhouse of interest, and maybe there's not a course that's being offered, but there's a faculty member who's an expert in that, they can reach out and actually take a unit, 2 units, 3 units, 5 units with a faculty member, right? So these are the kinds of things that we want our students to do. We want them to make their education theirs. We want them to just feel like part of our really vibrant living and learning community. And that's our goal. And we really are so grateful for your partnership to be able to achieve that goal.
Thanks so much, Flora. And again, thank you all for your continued questions. I think I'll turn it over to the advisors because I think there were a couple other advising related questions, but I'm also just seeing the recent question about the health insurance. And I just want to direct you actually to the Student Health Center's website, because the Student Health Center, they have a whole department that works around health insurance and can answer all of those questions. We wouldn't be giving you the best advice if we didn't just send you there. So I hate to do that, but I want to get you the best advice possible. So thank you, Siobhan. In terms of the UC SHIP insurance, that's that page. And then more insurance questions can be answered by the health center directly. So I know there were a couple related questions about, I think the advisors got most of them, but there was something about general education requirements and then also transcripts, and then maybe something else about enrollment. So I just want to make sure that we're capturing those. So Gloria and Chelsea, do either of you want to address some of those?
Yeah. In terms of, I saw the transcript question just now, so I'll answer it. So if transcripts were received, your students as of last week have officially been matriculated to the university. So now that transcripts are here, now that AP scores are in the works, again, registrar is just kind of preparing us for enrollment appointments once they do arrive. So if you have confirmed that your students' transcripts have been received by admissions, in advising, and I won't get too into it because it could be a little confusing, but we respect kind of like effective dates for when we receive a document, you know, the timeline as to when it's processed, again, because there's so many departments that work on different processes. You know, timelines vary depending on time of year, time of the quarter, staffing, but going back I know, Laura, you had mentioned this earlier, of like the timeline for everything. This is can totally be anxiety inducing. And I just want to reassure you, as your advising team, as your colleges, like, we want to reduce your anxiety, make this an awesome transition into a beautiful campus. So, you know, when it comes to receiving documentation, we honor when we receive documentation. That's referred to as like effective date as to when we receive, you know, anything that has a deadline, and then the timeline again as to when it gets processed varies. But students are always welcome to come to us. This is an overwhelming transition, but we're here to make it amazing, because it is amazing. In terms of general education requirements and knowing which courses to choose for majors, we did put in our GE requirements, a link for them, and then we have like getting started guides per major. So these guides basically give students an introduction to a major and what courses are recommended. You know, maybe a student wants to do Latin American Latino studies, and you'll see in the Getting Started guide that they recommend core, maybe LALS 1 and a GE, right? I am a little bit of, I guess, what our Gen Zers would call it old school. I have a physical planner. I have physical academic planning forms. I love meeting with students in person and being able to print out academic planning forms and make different plans for my students. I have a lot of frosh who are like, I don't know, I'm interested in 3 majors. And I'm like, okay, let's make a plan so that you have a visual representation of what pursuing this major will look like, right? So we got your back. We'll be here to guide your students as they choose their courses, as they explore their majors. I do, you know, if you have students who want to be as proactive as possible, which is great, I do encourage looking at those Getting Started guides. Just kind of browse through the different majors, just see what the departments recommend. Our advising team, we're all really, really good at, and we love working with other departments. So your student won't just have colleges advising. We're always working together with major advisors to connect students, to put them onto the right resources. If we don't know the answer to a question that's super department specific, we will always connect students to the major advisors. You know, we like to keep students on our radars. If they ask for help, that's what we're here for. But in terms of course selection, GEs, we're always here to make plans to get those GE requirements out of the way. Chelsea and I both, you know, do academic planning forms with our students and accommodate any changes or yeah. Chelsea, did you want to add anything?
No, I think it's you've done a great job just in covering. We do, again, Gloria and I do everything we can in our power to help your student transition and to keep them going throughout their time here. I just noticed that there was a question that popped up about HIPAA. So the same kind of thing, just like there is HIPAA, where as you have your students here that are adults, all of their information is definitely, and their privacy is taken very seriously by our institution. That includes their health information. So that would be where the HIPAA comes in. So you would need to be able to discuss that with the Student Health Center to be able to get any kinds of releases for that. And the same thing goes actually with our student records as well. So then we also have our FERPA releases. So just like how we have our information that is protected in terms of health, that includes also for the FERPA release, anything that includes the students' grades, when their classes are, any of those kinds of decisions, as well as their financial aid information. All of that is going to be protected and is not accessible to anyone outside of the student. And so we always ask when a student is looking for advising that they are contacting us through their provided UCSC email address. That way we can help identify that this is the student that we are talking to. We also understand, though, that your parents play a huge role in the student's life. So we welcome if the student, if a parent wants to let us know that something might be going on with a student. You know, we welcome, especially if there's concern of how a student is doing, we can check on the student welfare type of things and get involved with the other college offices. However, we're not able to actually share any of that information to a parent unless a FERPA release has been signed. So please keep that in mind. The same thing goes for any kind of third party as well. If there's any kind of third party that for whatever reason needs to have students' information, something that comes off the top of my head is like insurance rates. Sometimes there's insurance bonuses if you have a good student. And so that kind of information as well needs to be signed off on before any of that can be released. So we definitely encourage whenever possible to have the student contact us directly so that we can confirm the student's identity, so that we're making sure that we are doing our best to protect their privacy as well. And if you have any other questions regarding that, I believe I have the parent form here. So if anyone needs additional information on that.
Can I add something, Chelsea? Thank
Of
you
course, go for it.
bringing that up. I want to add a little bit about add something about AP scores. I'm seeing a few questions about AP scores. I want to first and foremost clarify, if AP scores don't make it here on time, it's totally okay. You know, if you're experiencing anxiety about AP scores not getting here within the next month or so, that's okay. There will be no negative consequences to not having AP scores submitted. Students are technically not required to submit AP scores unless they want those units, or you know, unless we have like a course that, for example, math, a calculus AP score may equate to a course equivalence here. And Chelsea, I don't know if you mind adding the AP-IBH chart to the chat so students and parents can see what we're referring to. But again, going back to the delay in AP scores, so students who submitted their AP scores beginning of June were told that they would see everything posted July 1st, but there is a bit of a delay in the event that students' scores are not posted by the time, you know, virtual advising week comes along, or even enrollment, or, you know, even the start of the quarter. We'll help them out. We have a guide and steps to take, you know, in case AP scores are not coming through. Oftentimes there's little things like maybe names or contact information don't match on records from College Board and admissions. Little things like that can delay AP scores too. But I just want to reassure you, if you're experiencing a little bit of anxiety about those AP scores being received, we have time. We'll figure it out together with your student. Again, AP scores are technically not required, but students send them in because who doesn't want extra units or prereqs met, right? So just wanted to add that. I hope that it's not adding too much stress on you and your students. If the AP scores are a little delayed, we'll work around it. And yeah, we'll help your students address any issues they may run into. And we will share a AP-IBH chart, which basically shows everything, all the credits, whether it's course equivalence or unit credit that students get per AP score. So if your student got maybe a score of 5 on AP English or literature, you know, that could equate to some requirements here, writing requirements, things like that. So we'll go ahead and share that chart with y'all so y'all see what we're talking about. But again, if AP scores the delay we're experiencing, I'm so sorry about that. Things kind of work slow sometimes with College Board and getting everything over, but we'll figure it out. It's all going to be okay, and we'll help your students when the time comes to meet with them and address those AP score issues.
Thank you so much, Chelsea and Gloria, and everyone for your questions, and for everyone around this Zoom room for answering the questions. Hopefully what we want to leave you with is that there's a group of us, a ton of our staff here that are here to support you and your students through this big transition. And we so look forward to welcoming all of our students in the fall. And so hopefully that's what you're taking away from this session, is that we are here. We're here to support you. We're here to support your students. We look forward to the opportunity. So, and hopefully you got some of your questions answered. And like we said, this recording will be posted on our website shortly, as well as all of the great references that we listed in our chat. We may not have gotten to every specific question, but hopefully we touched on all of the themes. And so thank you again for populating the chat with your questions. We know we went a little over time, so we want to give you back the rest of your evening, or wherever you are in the world, the rest of your day. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to our team for being here and answering the questions, and for supporting all of our students as you do. And thank you all for supporting your students to get to this point. Congratulations to all of you. We look forward to welcoming everyone in the fall. Take care. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.